thanks for introducing me and also the co-authors. Then I don't need to pronounce the names because it's rather difficult to pronounce the names for me. I'm Tong from TU Delft in the Department of Management of the Built Environment. Today I'm going to introduce you a series game that we designed in the National Growth Fund project. The co-authors are Eva, Marja, Lou, Paul and Wim. Maybe you know some of them. I think I don't want to skip this because globally we see that our sector accounts for 39% of the CO2 emissions, of which 11% originates from the production. Specifically for the Netherlands, we need to build 900,000 new homes till 2030, and also we have 8 million homes and 1 million utility buildings to renovate and maintain. And we are also known for our fragmented project-based sector characteristics, and also the small and medium enterprise heavy industry. For the building sector only, last year we have more than 270,000 companies. And in order to upscale the circular pilot projects that we now are experiencing, we do need to see the behavior changes. On the other hand, we have digital solutions exist, but they are scattered in adoption, and also the integration of this kind of digital solutions are not well received and hinder the large-scale circular transitions. So that's how this National Growth Fund's initiative starts, and we are participating in one of the programs, which is called Future-Proof Built Environment Program. As you can see here, we have 3 different consortia. One is the building consortia, one is infrastructure consortia, and the last one is the ecosystem consortia. And then for each one of these consortia, we have different focus. Our project is located in the building consortia, and then we focus on industrialization and also digitalization. But for all these different consortia, we have the digitalization layer involved, which serves as the backbone of the whole program. But we have done extensive feasibility study and business process modeling approach for the facade industry. And then we do see that even though we have a lot of digital tools available, but they are not well integrated. Think about the manufacturing of the building products, but also the building sector, the construction sector, and how they are connected these days. We also see that there is lack of incentive for the manufacturers to exchange information with the AEC sector, in which is very much needed for the circular transition. And then with all these interoperability issues and the less of motivation and this kind of long-hanging behavior for traditional way of working, that hinders the transition. And we see that potentially serious game could be of help. So serious games have been grounded in the experiential learning and behavior reflection. So we try to design a serious game to bridge this kind of digital developers and the circular supply chain actors together, because we see 3 challenges. One, the digital AEC solution providers, they need to understand the process of production, remanufacturing, recycling of the building products manufacturers. And on the other hand, the manufacturers need to have more awareness that if they share data with the building sector, then certain things could be enabled for circular reuse, remanufacturing, because otherwise they don't know how they can disassemble it, for example. On the other hand, we also see another challenge is that even if you have pilot projects, it's not upscaled. So there is this kind of lack of continuous learning. So we think that we need to foster this kind of continuous reflection for better collaboration. And so we are going to design this case, this serious game based on a facade use case, because as I mentioned, we have already studied the business process extensively, both the as-is process and also the to-be process in relation to the circular transition. And the objective of this serious game is to capture the multi-stakeholder complexity by using role play, and then stimulates collaboration and try to see how they negotiate during this role play, whether they can make certain transactions. And then we also want to review that there are certain information and data sharing gaps in the play. And on the other hand, as I mentioned, that we also want to foster this kind of reflection so that we can design better to-be scenarios. But it sounds very abstract, so I'm going to show you how it is designed. So this is a simplified version of the game because the whole document is very big and we test it in a consortium meeting environment, so it's simplified. As you can see, we have the circular supply chain with different roles. For example, the architects, facility managers, demolition experts, circular makers and waste processors, and raw material extractors and material producers and building product producers. In addition to this, we also have a reflector role who is observing what is happening during the role play and wrote down what information is asked from which person and whether there's a transaction made. And we played 2 rounds. The first round, we tried to mimic the linear traditional way of working. So each one of the role player is only allowed to move 1 station up and down. So they are not allowed to talk to whomever they want. In the second round, we try to mimic the circular peer-to-peer interaction. So they are allowed to talk to each other, doesn't matter which station they are allocated to. And something need to mention that for this testing environment, most of the participants are from the digital solution providers, and also the standardization and also research institutions. So the kind of focus shift a little bit more towards to let them understand what the manufacturers do. So their first task is to understand what are the daily tasks of the manufacturers. And also for the circular supply chain, how do they recycle and what they need to consider, like the CO2 emissions, and for those type of things. And then in the second round, as I mentioned, they are allowed to talk to each other, but also we introduce more requirements. Like this round, they need to consider how much CO2 emission you can reduce if you make certain transactions. And then we see that it's very interesting to see this kind of interactions because for each row you have what you need to do, your task. Like I need to produce 100 window frames from raw materials or from reclaimed materials. But they need to make decisions like if I do this, how much would that cost me qua cost and also qua environmental cost. And then they have certain skills and they also have certain resources to spend. This slide is made in Dutch because that reflects the reality because our sector is very local oriented. But we are thinking about later changing it into an English version as well. And then my co-author, one of them is here, Lou, you can see from the photo. We see some key findings, like during the second round, they are more aware what they need to do, and also they understand that sharing data could encourage them to make better transactions and more easily. Without sharing data, the transaction costs would go up. But also we see that some shifting of power dynamics. If certain gateway person or row are holding the information back without letting others know, then we see that certain transactions cannot be made. And we also see some emergence of new roles, like information intermediaries, like what I mentioned, the gateway person, or some new roles emerging like the digital platforms. But we also see that there are missing actors, like reverse logistics. Suppose if you talk to an urban miner, say, I want to produce 100 window frames, and the urban miner already have 100 window frames that are good in condition, then you can already get it without going through all these supply chain actors. However, they mentioned, but we don't have reverse logistics facility, so we cannot do that. If you want to do it, you need to arrange it yourself. So we see some actors are missing in this process. But of course, in the end, we also can reflect that certain things could be intermediated, but then after a while, it could also be disintermediated. Like certain roles are not needed anymore, like warehouses, if you can directly get it from the client or from the donor buildings. So reflections on learning, we see that in this simulated environment, we can observe certain behaviors, and also the strategies are emerging. we try to facilitate role play by understanding each other's needs and what the daily tasks from each different sectors are. And also we reviewed the practical gaps, like standards of digital product passports, which still is under development, which are going to be put into place. But for certain things, like how do you disassemble certain things, and then how do you design this kind of logistic process, is still missing. And we see that serious games could be of help to further improve the system design to 2B scenarios. Future directions, we have developed a new game, which you can see on the right side. I'm not sure to what extent you know Ticket to Ride. It's quite a popular game, board game these days. And what we try to do is, as you can see, these different hubs actually are locations. In this way, we try to incorporate the spatial dimensions into the game. So you can see on the top, those are the buildings. So we want to simulate the reuse of building materials. But then, of course, reuse is rather difficult in comparing to remanufacturing or recycling. So the route is a bit longer. And in this way, we try to mimic, the different players try to collaborate with each other to share information, to share resource. And then in the end, we'd get a total score. If you collaborate well, then you can reach a higher level of circularity. So this way we also, and the different colors represent the different components that you can make a window. For example, the glasses and frames, and then whether they should be remanufactured. There's the different colors of the resources. And we are going to test this game in September and November with our consortium meeting, but this time we are going to bring both digital solution providers and also the manufacturers. So it is more complete. And we are also going to embed this game into the course that I'm currently designing, information management for the built environment for the master students in November. And this is already kind of like a way of introducing morphological thinking in the circular strategy design, by which you give a lot of options, and then you can think what kind of design options and strategies you can achieve, and then try to evaluate the performance of the game more quantitatively. And later we are going to combine this with simulations. Based on the observations we see, we can try to put it into a simulation to try to calculate the impacts of the strategies. Yes. To conclude, this is a low-tech game, but we do think that it can yield high-impact learning and foster reflection, which is very important, and then enhance awareness to share data with each other and facilitate transition dialogues. But of course, this is not a one-time thing. We need to continue to do this to really make concrete agreements with the supply chain partners, how we want to achieve this together. And thanks for this National Growth Funds, and special thanks to Niels for the morphological thinking and the consortium partners and the game testers. Thank you for your attention.